Maurice Bucaille, at the end of his book, examines the stories of the Old Testament and the Quranic stories with the new knowledge and science that exists. Which stories? Let's look at the story of Noah's flood and the story of Moses' Exodus in Maurice Bucaille's book from a scientific perspective. Even though our French researcher grew up in the culture and customs of Christianity, we see that his perspective in this book is very positive towards Islam, and he has written this book with a positive outlook. Now let's look at his research on these two stories together. The first difference is a fundamental one. According to the Old Testament books, they say that Noah was 600 years old when the flood occurred, and it is also mentioned in this narrative that Noah was born 1056 years after Adam. And it is written in the Old Testament so that Abraham was born 292 years after Noah's flood. And we know that Abraham lived 850 years before Christianity, which means that Noah's flood occurred in the 21st or 22nd century. And in the covenant, it is said that the entire pre-world was submerged underwater with this flood. Our historians have recorded that in that century there were great governments and empires. For example, in Egypt at the end of the Old Kingdom and the beginning of the Middle Kingdom, and this is a contradiction that exists in the covenant. But the Quran does not specify a time for this story and does not provide a specific time for it. Therefore, there is no contradiction in the Quran regarding this story. Well, the second criticism that Maurice Bucaille has about this story is again a criticism that applies to the covenant. Let's take a look at this together. In the Quran, it is stated without any contradiction in its text that everything that will live was brought onto the ship, 2 of each pair, along with his family. But in the covenant, these 3 different narratives are mentioned, which according to our researchers' perspective, these contradictions could be considered a negative point for the covenant due to these 3 narratives. The first narrative, according to the rabbinical account, states 1 of each pair, and his family without any exceptions. According to the Yahwist narrative, from the clean animals, 7 pairs of each, and from the unclean animals, 1 pair along with their family. And according to a Yahwist verse, ours it says, 1 pair of each clean and unclean animal. Well, in the covenant it is said that Noah's Ark collided with the mountains of Ararat. But in the Quran it is said to the mountains of Judah, which are the highest peaks of the Ararat mountain range. However, some people, to create ambiguity and differentiate between these 2 stories, say that the mountains of Judah also exist in Arabia. Regarding the Exodus out of Moses, we all know the story. I won't explain much to keep the video from getting too long. In the Testaments, a group called the Hebrews is mentioned, which has also been recorded in history but under different names like the Hadrians and a few other names, which confirms this statement. This group had built cities by force for the Pharaoh at that time, which is also mentioned in the Testaments, but the Quran does not talk about this group. Similarly, the Quran does not mention the death of the Pharaoh during Moses' stay in the city of Midian. The Quran also does not provide information about the age of Moses and the age of the Pharaoh, which has led to differences and criticisms of the Testaments. But on the other hand, the Testaments do not mention anything about the Pharaoh's body after death. But in the Quran, it is stated that the body of the Pharaoh after death will be a lesson for you. In the Testaments, it is said that 10 natural disasters befell Egypt, some of which have been exaggerated. For example, streams filled with blood that covered the entire country. But in the Quran, 5 natural disasters are mentioned, and they are only named without any exaggeration. In the Testaments, the route of the Exodus is mentioned from where to where. The Pharaoh's people pursued Moses and his family. And something that is considered a positive point for the Quran in these studies is that in a verse of the Quran it is stated that it is said that the body of the Pharaoh would remain as a lesson for future generations. And as we know, the mummified body of the Pharaoh from the time of the Exodus is displayed in the Cairo Museum. and one of the renowned doctors, Wanduo, who worked on this body, can see traces of impact condition on the chest incisions, which could possibly be the result of water pressure hitting the chest. In the next section, we will present the overall conclusion of Maurice Bucaille's book for you. It's the end of the book, and we will have a final summary. Don't miss our next segment. On our channel, we will share researchers' views on the opinions of great philosophers regarding religions and the right way to live. Don't miss our channel. If you like this video, be sure to like it and share it with your friends. Goodbye until the next video.